In our latest installment of our Top 9 Facts series, we're examining the lesser known highlights and stories surrounding the career of the one and only Rickey Henderson. What events, challenges, and decisions did he make to become the legend we celebrate today? Let's learn more about the life of the Man of Steel on this episode of Rounders, a history of baseball in America. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Rounders, a history of baseball in America. I am your host, Jeff Lambert. This episode is coming to you as a fast-tracked installment that I put together. I had this on my episode list for February, but then, of course, if you're listening to this in current events time, we lost Rickey Henderson on December 21st, 2024. When the news broke yesterday, I decided, you know what, I have to put a speed up on this episode. And I worked throughout last night to finish up this episode to be able to put it out today when Rickey Henderson is on all of our minds as he has passed. So I wanted to take a moment. This episode is all about being able to look at some of the lesser known stories and facts and memories about this amazing player that we all hold very dear as baseball fans. We had recently done an episode like this it was about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. We had done an installment of this about Willie Mays shortly after he had passed, one of our most listened to episodes. So I thought, you know what better time than this to be able to discuss the life and career of Rickey Henderson and look at some of the things that maybe aren't being reported in some of the main stories, which tend to just be redundant about his life and accomplishments. So I hope you enjoy this chance for us to come together, celebrate Rickey Henderson. Let's go ahead and get into it.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Now, before we jump into the lesser-known facts and stories surrounding Rickey Henderson, as I do in most of my episodes, I like to keep in mind the younger audiences, people that may be familiar with Rickey Henderson but don't understand Rickey Henderson and what he accomplished during his life and career. So I want to give you a quick rundown of what this man did during his 25-year baseball career. So obviously, he's widely regarded as one of baseball's greatest leadoff hitters and base runners. His achievements are single season stacked as well as career stacked. He has numerous awards and honors. So let's go through the list to just take a moment to appreciate the greatness of Rickey Henderson. So to lead off, he was a 10-time All-Star in the American League, a 2-time World Series championship. He won one in 1989 with the Oakland Athletics and another one in 1993 with the Blue Jays. He was the American League MVP in 1990. He was the 1989 American League Championship Series MVP. He won one Gold Glove Award in 1981. He was a 3-time Silver Slugger. He was the 12-time American League stolen base leader, and that includes a record 130 steals in 1982 in one season. He led the American League in walks 4 times. He was 5 times named the Major League runs scored leader. He led the Major League 6 times as the stolen base championship overall, both leagues. He was the 1999, towards the end of his career, Sporting Network Comeback Player of the Year award. Remember, this is like getting into his mid-30s when this happened. He won the Commissioner's Historic Achievement Award in 2001. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2009 on his first year on the ballot. His number 24 is retired by the Oakland A's. They did this also in 2009. And of course, he's obviously inducted into the Oakland Athletics Hall of Fame. My goodness. So that's just the awards and honors. Let's go through the records that this man broke during his career. Rickey Henderson holds the record for the most career stolen bases in history with 1,406. He holds the record for single season stolen bases with 130 in one season, which was in 1982, as mentioned before. He holds the career record for runs scored with 2,295. He also holds the record for unintentional walks. So that is 2,129. That's how many he amassed in his career. He has the most leadoff home runs with 81. He has the most times caught stealing as well at 335, but at the rate he stole, it kind of makes sense. He has the most stolen bases in a postseason series. He set a record of 8 steals in the 1989 ALCS. He has the most career walks. He broke Babe Ruth's record of 2,062. He has the most career games in left field. He surpassed Zach Wheat, who had previously set the record at 2,328 career games in left field. That now belongs to Rickey Henderson. He also holds the world stolen base record. Yes, he broke the world stolen base record of all professional leagues with 1,066 career steals. Some other notable achievements and statistics that I think are worth mentioning. He has the second highest career power speed number at 490.4. He had a career batting average of 279. He had an on-base percentage of 401 and an OPS of 820. So it wasn't just on the base pass. He was a good hitter. He reached the 3,000 career hits club on his final day of the 2001 season towards the end of his career. So there's that. He led the American League in runs 5 times. He had 16 seasons with an on-base percentage of at least 400. He led the league in hits in 1981 with 135. He's the only American League player to steal more than 100 bases in a single season, and he did it 3 times. And of course, for his Oakland Athletics, he holds the all-time stolen base leader for them as well. Man, okay. So that overall is Rickey Henderson's career in a nutshell. It's a big nutshell. So for those of you who have heard of Rickey Henderson's greatness and certainly knew that he was one of the best base stealers of all time, he was so much more than that, as you can see by this list of accolades. So that in itself just gives us pause to say we lost truly one of the greatest here this past weekend. So now that we've gone through Rickey's amazing career, let's talk about 9 facts you may or may not have known about his life and career. Fact number 1, even Rickey's birth was memorable. So hang on because this fact's going to get progressively more impressive as we go along, okay? So Rickey Henderson was born on December 25, 1958 in Chicago, Illinois. That's right, he was a Christmas baby. So from the start, obviously he was fast, right? He was so quick that his mother didn't even make it to the hospital in time for the birth. On the way, his parents had to pull the car over, and Rickey was born in the back of the family Oldsmobile on Christmas Day. So Henderson actually later joked about this in an interview. He stated, quote, "I was already fast, I just couldn't wait," end quote. Fact number 2, Rickey could have gone pro not just in baseball, but in football. Yes, he was a very talented 3-sport athlete in high school, but specifically in football. He received more than a dozen scholarships his senior year to play college football at D1 schools across the nation. He was a really good running back, and he actually had publicly stated that he had a dream of playing for the Oakland Raiders. However, Rickey's mother had a big say in what he decided to do as he graduated, and she advised him that baseball was a better choice for him to go into because she looked at, and I'm sure they had advisors too, but she specifically looked at and said, you know what? Due to the shorter career spans of football players, you should play baseball because you'll have the ability to have a longer, more successful, sustained career. He took his mom's advice, of course, and went pro for baseball. Fact number 3, Rickey regularly referred to himself in the third person. Yes, that's right. He was known for saying things to basically remind himself, he would say, when he wasn't doing well or when he wasn't doing what he needed to be doing, he would start talking to himself, almost scolding himself in the third person. So instead of saying, I didn't do a good job with that, he would say, Rickey didn't do a good job doing this. And this was actually something you can see this if you're a part of the newsletter. I included a video link. There was a televised interview on CBS where Rickey retold the story about his tendency to do this. So just to put it for you in the audio version, he said, quote, "People might catch me when they know I'm ticked off, and they'll hear me saying, like, 'Rickey, what the heck are you doing, Rickey?' And they say, 'Darn, Rickey, why are you saying Rickey? Why don't you just say I?' But I never did. I always said Rickey, and it became something for people to joke about," end quote. So just an example. There was another news story that I found that Henderson later denied, but let me tell you the story. During the offseason, he supposedly had called Padres general manager Kevin Towers after he had signed with the Padres later on in his career, and he left him a voice message saying, quote, "Kevin, this is Rickey, calling on behalf of Rickey. Rickey wants to play baseball," end quote. So an interesting tick, certainly from Henderson, but yeah, referring to himself in the third person on a semi-regular basis. Fact number 4, Rickey framed his first signing bonus instead of cashing it. So in 1982, he's experiencing a stellar start to his career. He's with the Oakland Athletics, and they reward him with a $1 million signing bonus. Remember, this is in 1982. So just dropping that number into the inflation calculator, that would have equaled $3,269,357 in today's spending power. So this is not chump change that he has received from the Oakland Athletics for his outstanding play here earlier on his career. So he's very proud of his achievement, and he chose to frame the check, bought a picture frame and put the check in it, and displayed it on his wall at home rather than going to the bank to cash it immediately. So months later, the Athletics accounting department, they're noticing a discrepancy in their financial records and they discover that Rickey never cashed that check. So they contacted him, and Henderson, who stated this later in an interview, told them, quote, "I'm staring at it, the check, right now. It's still in the frame," end quote. The team immediately advised him that you should deposit this check and keep the photocopy for the display. And this wasn't the first time that Rickey did this throughout his career. So there was a similar incident that occurred during his time with the New York Yankees in the late 1980s. The team had issued Henderson a six-figure bonus check, and he didn't cash it for several months. And there was an internal audit just like the last time, and the oversight showed up. They contacted Henderson, and he reportedly explained that he was waiting for interest rates to rise before depositing the check. So there you have it. Slow to cash those bonus checks coming in was Rickey Henderson. Fact number 5. Rickey's base stealing strategy was actually very unique to his peers for the time period. So obviously this man had otherworldly base stealing skills, but it was rooted in this unorthodox study of how pitchers delivered. And let me just break that down for you, okay? So most players at the time would focus on memorizing a pitcher's pickoff move so they could get the best lead possible. So they would study it, and then if a pitcher started to go into his pickoff move, they would obviously decrease the lead or get back on the base. But Rickey instead focused on their deliveries to home plate, like their actual pitches to the plate. So by doing this, he focused on the motion of the regular pitch on the windup and say like, okay, I can tell when he's actually going to throw the ball and not try and pick me off. And that gave him just that little split second where he could better anticipate the optimal moment to initiate his steal. There's an interview that backs this up where he was having a discussion about base stealing techniques, and he emphasized the importance of timing and reading the pitcher. This is what he had to say, quote, "I've stolen on guys at 1.25 seconds. Sometimes a guy is 1.25, but he gives you something comfortable to get timing off of," end quote. So this ability of him to look at things differently really allowed him to succeed even against pitchers with quick deliveries at a time when other base runners were looking at things in a different light. This shows really, I think, the genius behind Rickey. It wasn't just the raw athleticism. He had this ability to try and come up with strategies that hadn't really been tried yet. And we have to attribute that to him as well. Before we get through our final 3 facts, we're just going to take a quick moment for the 7th inning stretch. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. So we are going through some of the lesser known yet amazing moments in Rickey Henderson's career, ones that you may not have heard through other, mainstream options that are covering his life, as we lost him just yesterday when this episode was recorded. So for the first 5, just to go through them, we talked about, obviously, his birth story, being born on Christmas Day in the car on the way to the hospital, how he could have gone pro in football, how he regularly referred to himself in the third person, how he framed his first signing bonus instead of cashing it on 2 different occasions, and then, of course, his very unique base stealing strategy where he would focus on the delivery of the pitch as opposed to the pickoff move. So that brings us to fact number 6, and this is one of my favorites on this list. So Rickey broke base stealing records outside of Major League Baseball. I did not know this, and I consider myself pretty well read on baseball history. So maybe there's other Henderson mega fans that already knew this, but Rickey Henderson's time in the MLB, obviously we went through the list of records, very long, very accomplished, but he also set base stealing records in both minor league baseball and in other countries, specifically when he played for the Puerto Rican Professional Baseball League, the PRWL. Let me break them both down for you. So in 1977, while Rickey's coming up through the minors, he was playing for the Modesto A's in the Class A California League. During his time there, he stole an impressive 95 bases. That really, I think, signaled that future dominance that we were going to see on the base paths. But he set the single season record in that league for the amount of steals that he racked up. Now, additionally, during the 1980-81 offseason, Rickey decided to play winter ball over in Puerto Rico for a team called the Ponce Lions. And he did this specifically to refine his skills. He wanted to use that downtime to be able to just get better. This is earlier on in his career. So while he played for the Lions in the PRWL, he set the single season stolen base record with 44 steals in 48 games. He actually surpassed a record that had previously been set by PRWL player Carlos Bernier. Bernier, not sure. But that record was broken by Rickey, so it wasn't just in the MLB that he was setting base stealing records. He did it outside as well. Fact number 7. Rickey was immortalized with a truly unique bobblehead doll. So, this is common practice, has been for decades. You have a bobblehead night at the stadium, usually to commemorate a player that's really treasured by the organization. So the Oakland Athletics did this for Rickey Henderson in 2011 after he retired. It was to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Henderson breaking the all-time stolen base record. So it's special bobblehead night. People are excited to come out and get this little trinket. But Henderson had a specific request. He said, wait a minute. If you're going to be releasing a collectible about me, I want it to be different than the other ones that you have put out and what other players have gotten. So he asked the team to make sure that his bobblehead uniform was dirt stained, which obviously is a callback to his aggressive base stealing prowess. Now, he actually talked about this in an interview. He said, quote, I told them, put a little dirt on mine, make sure that it looks like I'm playing the game, end quote. So I would be so interested if anybody listening to this has an image of this bobblehead. If you have it in your collection, I would love to see this. You can Google it and see it, but it's also cool if, someone actually got it, and went to this event. That would be really neat. Email me, rounderspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to feature it on the show and on social. Fact number 8. Did you know Rickey Henderson led the league in steals even after he turned 40? Yeah, this is impressive to me as someone who also just got over the 40-year mark, even though I don't like to admit it. Rickey's dominance wasn't just early on in his career. It wasn't a front-loaded thing. I mean, his performances during the late 30s and early 40s in his career, they could eclipse most players in their 20s. So let me break that down for you. So for instance, at age 39, this was in 1998, Rickey actually led Major League Baseball with 66 stolen bases. And that set a record for the most steals in a season by a player of that age or older. My goodness. And then if we look at what he did from age 40 to 42, so this was from 1999 to 2001, his post 40 years, he continued to be a formidable base-stealing threat. He did it for the Mets, Mariners, and Padres. Over those 3 seasons, he racked up 98 stolen bases. And that total stands as the highest for any player over 40, with the next closest being Cap Anson, who had 90. And that brings us to our final fact about the great Rickey Henderson. He continued playing baseball even after retiring from the MLB. So his final season in Major League Baseball was in 2003. He didn't really go willingly. He wanted to play so badly, and he continued to play professional baseball in other independent leagues even after he exited the MLB. So it really underscores that love for the game that he had. I just couldn't extinguish it, even Father Time coming after him. So I want to talk about his post-career accomplishments. So he went to play for the Newark Bears in the Atlantic League, and in 2003, had a good season for him. He played 56 games, he maintained a .339 batting average, and a .493 on-base percentage. So undiminished skills there, even in the Atlantic League. Remember, this guy's 43 years old doing this. And then the following season, he returned to the Bears in 2004, and he appeared in 91 games, and he achieved a .462 on-base percentage. He drew 96 walks, and he stole 37 bases, and he was only caught twice. My goodness, again. And then the following season in 2005, he decided to go play for a team called the San Diego Surf Dogs, who are in the Golden Baseball League. So he signed with them. It was their inaugural season, actually, so it was a great attendance gainer for the league. So during his time, he played 73 games. He posted a .456 on-base percentage. He had 73 walks, 16 stolen bases, and he led the team to the league championship, and they won. So these post-MLB stops, I think, are just amazing because it shows that you could not extinguish that desire to play baseball in Rickey even after he left Major League Baseball. He remained publicly open in several different interviews, stated, "I'd love to come back to the MLB if someone will sign me." He wanted to come back not only to play, but to mentor younger players. Never got the chance to come back into the league after that exit after 2002, but played as long as he could professionally, and that speaks to I think, the true warrior that he was. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed going through some of these facts. I hope you learned something about Rickey, something you can share at the water cooler this week, or even just to take a moment to remember what a great player this guy was. And if you were lucky enough to be able to see him in person, to be able to experience that greatness on the field, I'd love to hear about some of your comments. If you want to leave them in Spotify, send me an email, comment on the newsletter, rounders.substack.com. It would be a great time for us to take some shared reminiscence of Rickey Henderson's life and career. Thank you for joining me, folks. It's been great to connect with you again. And remember, there are only 2 seasons, winter and baseball. See you next time. Thanks for joining us for this episode as we explored another amazing moment from baseball history. You can help grow the show by liking us on YouTube and your podcast app of choice. Don't forget to head on over and sign up for the free email newsletter and the bonus show, This Week in Baseball History. Just go to www.rounders.substack.com. A special thanks to our premium subscribers that are helping us grow for just $1.25 a week, and to our starting 9 supporters, Nathan Halverson and Jack Wilson. You are the producers helping make this the top baseball history show out there. See you next week, and remember, there are only 2 seasons, winter and baseball.